Welcome to this version of the database team meeting. It is December 15th, and there are a few non-verbalized topics in there. We have a fairly full agenda, so we'll jump right into it. From last week, we were going to spin off asynchronously and have everybody score topics in the RICE framework in the spreadsheet, and people were supposed to make their own copies and do it. Did anybody actually get to that last week?
Not last week, half an hour ago.
I think that we need 2 more days, if everyone agrees.
Yep, I don't think it's super critical for today, so we'll just add that to the list of things to do. We have plenty for the remainder of this milestone, so we'll just put the follow-up here. Sorry, my floating camera keeps getting in the way. All right, we have a bunch of new and incoming issues we need to triage. I have most of these open. I don't know if anybody's seen this one. There's a migration failure that we should get in. It looks like there's some fairly simple fixes in there. Has anybody seen this one yet? I will just add it for the next milestone.
Do we know what caused it?
It looked like there was just a missing step within the migration somewhere, because there's a couple fixes noted in here where they just dropped either a view or a table. I can't remember the specific details, but there's a fix noted in the upgrade plan. I was hoping Jose would join us today, but he's not here yet. Sometimes he joins later. Then we got a bunch from Infradeb, and they're mostly open here. If we start from the top, most of them look like this, where it selects something from the table with some where clause. And I tried to go through as many as I could and find this is the marginalia data that comes along with it, correct?
Mm-hmm.
To make sure it was included on the individual issues. Otherwise, you have to go back through the list, find it, and get an example from it. So these are all marked as Sub 1. I'm going to join the infra call on Thursday and talk about how we can better categorize these. These don't seem like severity 1s to me, but maybe Infradeb has a different severity scale than we do. Sorry, go ahead, Fabian.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I spoke about that earlier with Yannis, and I am operating off the handbook definitions of what these labels mean. And I mean, you know, I know the least about these things in the room here, but at least to my understanding, those issues are, you know, they don't qualify as a P1 S1 according to those definitions. So I think we need to align on how important this really is, because I jokingly said to Yannis, if all of those are really P1 S1s, we can re-record our kickoff video for the next release and just do this. And that may be entirely fine, right, if that is actually the case, but it doesn't feel like it right now. So clarification, I think, would be good.
Yeah, and I started this discussion on the same topic here. I haven't gotten a lot of feedback yet. And it's not to minimize the fact that these are concerning for Infradeb. We're seeing some spikes and some growth that needs to be mitigated. But again, I think the severity in the audience that are being hit, we need to have a conversation about it. So comments on that thread would be great. I have a note to follow up on later on today. So my impression from these is that we need to figure out where it's being called from, and these marginalia tags will help, right? And then maybe send it back to the team that owns that area and see if there's something they can do to reduce the frequency of calls, or excuse me, look into caching, right? It's not, looking through most of these select statements, it didn't seem like there was anything immediately the database group could do, but feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, or we can go through these one by one and triage.
I'm a bit on the fence with that one. For one reason is that I think the observation was made before we deployed the query caching change. So only after we made that sort of measurements, the query caching kicked in, and presumably that helps to reduce exactly those kind of queries where you have like n+1 queries, and those get cached now from Rails. So I'm not totally sure that this still holds, so that we would still see the same kind of frequency coming from that.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the other hand, I think I think there is one way to that would, or one type of problem that we can fix here perhaps is looking into these and sort of figure out if those are actually n+1 type of problems, because those are the ones that we can fix. But on the other hand, if they are not, then this is like it's a primary key lookup, right? So these happen everywhere. And sort of suggesting that we start to cache them, I think this is rather a more broader discussion. We don't have any of these caching mechanisms at the moment, aside from the Rails caching. So it's not that each of those issues can be like fixed by, oh, let's add this to the cache because we don't have this cache, right? So there is part of that is rather an open-ended, maybe architectural question, isn't it?
I don't know. I'd have to rely on your guidance here. So what do you think the next steps are for these issues?
Instinctively, I would say recheck that this is actually the case, that we're still suffering from those, because there have been changes since we made those observations. And I on a coffee chat today, I heard that sort of a lot of these issues that were created during the last week, those were observations, and some of them had like big question marks on them.
Mm-hmm.
That might be something that didn't translate very well. So perhaps before we reach out to 6 different teams and tell them to cache stuff, maybe we recheck those, or maybe come up with a recommendation.
So what are the specific steps on checking it? Do we just watch the reports that they generate on a daily basis? Because a lot of these come out, if I'm looking at this one here, these are daily reports. Do we just need to compare the tables here to see if they've fallen down in priority? Like this one, was called out for projects.
Now we
I
could
don't
probably
think that this one will fall. Sorry.
Right,
no,
but we have 6 of them, right? So do we check the daily reports to see if the 6 that were brought up to us have fallen down? And then if some remain, like if the projects one remains, then figure out what the next steps are, whether it's caching or some other optimization. Just trying to figure out what the definitive steps are, because yeah, we need to watch to see if the what was implemented by the memory team, the Rails caching, actually helps in figuring out which ones it did not improve.
So those are all quite specific queries. So maybe we can see their frequency over time and see if something changed in the last couple of days. That's one side. The other side is sort of re-evaluating if that is actually such a high severity problem for us, because just from looking at those are single record lookups, so might not be that bad.
Now, what's there a limit when there's an ID assigned? Okay. Sorry, we're gonna say something.
I don't know either what to do with them. I think it's a little, it's not totally clear. what we would expect to do on those, and if they are still relevant is also not clear to me.
Okay. We have on Thursday, there is the infrastructure weekly. I think, well, I'm going to join for sure. It would be good, maybe Andreas, if you could join on that one too, and kind of ask them some questions about what they're looking for updates on these, and kind of give the database team perspective on it. It's at like 5 p.m. UTC. Can you make that one, or is that too late for you? If not, we can get either Pat or Giannis to join.
No, that should work.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't make that, unfortunately.
And I can also join.
Okay. Yeah, maybe we can get some clarification, some changes to the process too, because again, the SEV one is a bit concerning, but we can talk about that on the discussion issue as well.
Yeah, I think the important thing for me is if you receive a list of like 7 things, all of which are labeled as urgent and important, and for me, at least in my labeling strategy, imply drop everything, do now, then I would like to understand very clearly why that is the case. And also, if everything is urgent and important, nothing is, right? It's like there may be some preference here as to what gets to happen first, right? And maybe some things are not as bad as others. I don't know. I think it would be great to clarify.
Yep. Okay. And actually, I was going to talk to Jose about that very topic today, but he's not here. So we'll move on to the next one.
Yeah, and that is in a similar direction. I was chatting today about the Infradeb board. So there's a board for that triaging process. And we were wondering how can we best contribute to that process. I think looking back at quite a few issues that were created last week, I think that those are all very good observations. Like from an operational perspective, we were seeing like this query is bad. Some even had specific query examples with a plan and marginalia comments, but basically they lack the application context. So, and perhaps this is something that we can contribute to that process. Is basically helping figure out like what is the functionality that is causing these queries. Perhaps what is the backend team that owns that? Why is that functionality working in that particular way? I think that is for us is a lot easier than when you sit on the rather operational side. And I wonder like how can we do that in a good way? One way that was pointed out was basically looking at the Infradeb board and looking at the open issues in that lane and sort of helping challenge their severity and add those details as they are needed, but also on the other hand, if we need quicker input, then perhaps we can also get pinged on those. So it can be both ways.
Yeah, I used to go to the infrastructure weekly meeting where we would review that board, triage things, and get them assigned out to the appropriate groups on a weekly basis, or maybe it was bi-weekly at the time. That, as the issues fell off, the need for the frequent triage was diminished, so I stopped going. So I'm going to start going again on a weekly basis to make sure these things get caught. That'll work for me. I know we're supposed to focus mostly on asynchronous, but having a synchronous meeting where we can actually hear the urgency and maybe have a real-time editing of the priorities and severities works well for me. So I'll start going on Thursdays. It's every week at the same time, so I can join those.
Is it helpful to have that context? You know, the functionality and
absolutely
what is causing that? Yeah. Okay, so that is something we could add before the meeting.
Yeah, for sure. Because again, if every database problem has to come through us, it doesn't scale very efficiently, especially with the team size that we have now. And the backend teams, perhaps they just need some guidance to say, hey, if you did this, just like Pat and I were talking about the API improvement where they implemented key set pagination last night. They got was a 20x improvement on timing.
Yeah, I forget the number.
Went from 2.5 seconds to 1.3 milliseconds. So, maybe by working with teams, we can find more examples like this where they can get some quick wins, and we don't have to be the first line triage and implementation. So, and this is just Italy, where they had to implement their own key set pagination, but it was similar to what we had done in the past. So I have to think there's some other gems and improvements out there that are similar to this. All right, let's switch over to the board. So they're going to wrap up the deployment steps today for release package, but milestone, I'm assuming all the moving issues and closing up the milestone will still happen on 17th, but we need to go through 13.7 to see if there's anything lingering in there that needs to be carried over. So start from the top. Giannis, you're up first.
Yeah, it has been reviewed by Patrick, and I have sent it to Andreas because I think that this is important for all of us to review it, because it will run over events, and we don't want to break events. So yeah, so hopefully this is, we have unbundled that from running the migration for events. So this is only the migration helpers. So the new plan is if we can merge that at some point, and then we will run the events migration next in 13.8, because it will be too dangerous to run it 2 days before cutoff.
So will this one close by 17th or close thereafter?
Yeah, Andreas will take it, hopefully, yeah.
Okay.
But it's better to be safe than sorry. So yeah.
All right. Andreas, Grafana annotations?
It's likely to carry over. I've been working on manual re-indexing today, so there is a request to repack a few indexes, and I suggested to use the application feature for that, and that needs some manual oversight. And today I managed only to do 1/3 of the indexes, so that's gonna happen tomorrow again, and perhaps even on a different day. So yeah, that's rather, I think the annotations is going to carry over.
All right, I'll just move it over now. Giannis.
Yeah, this one will move over because there are a lot of indexes there, but okay. I was keeping that there because it's my one thing that, yeah, to remind me that I have to do something more. Okay.
All right, Pat.
Yeah, that one, I think it should be good for this milestone. We were blocked on it for a few days. We were waiting for input from the verified team, but we went forward with it anyway, so I think it'll merge soon, hopefully.
Okay.
I think today is the merge deadline, though, right? Is that correct? The 15th.
The merge date deadline, yes.
Yeah, so it's not the 17th. So just for your information, right? It's
The next one can stay. That should wrap up this week, and it's not a code change.
Right. This one doesn't have anybody assigned to it.
Yeah, that one will carry over. That one they're waiting for a response from me, but I have to reorganize some files to make it easier for them to add the changes to CI to catch. There's specific files we want to trigger the build for, or trigger the test run against PG12, and I have to reorganize those a little bit to make it easier for them.
Okay. This one's been lingering for a while. I assume it's going to carry over. I don't think anybody's worked on this one yet. The database connect timeout. Should we preemptively move it to 13.9? It doesn't seem like it's a high priority item, and we have plenty in 13.8. I see heads nodding. All right.
I think I just closed that one. Could be wrong, but it should be closed.
I've had this window open for a while. So
Oh, there you go.
cool. All right.
And then
metric
this
two.
one, yeah, that should close today on the 4th try or something like that. But I'm no hopeful that it works. So it's been a
Perfect.
permission problem.
All right.
And that one is closed as well. I think I just closed up. You can look at the graph if you want to see a nice graph. That is closed.
Perfect. Looks like we're good for 13.7. I just watched Giannis's kickoff video. Nice work, Giannis. Is there anything we need to discuss for 13.8?
I think it's ambitious planning.
Yep.
That's for sure. But that's good. I'm
And
excited for it.
there could be some work that comes in from these Infradeb board requests too. So see what happens.
We'll cross that bridge when we.
Yeah, we'll find out more on Thursday. All right. What did we talk about here? The logos, database. So this is awesome. I like this one. I don't know. Is there any preference between the elephant and the simplified database logo? It's a very important decision we need to make here. I vote for the database
Minimalism.
logo.
Yeah, I vote for minimalism.
Well,
All
I
right.
think the database logo is more future-proof, right? As in, it's applicable to any database.
That's true.
You know,
Yeah.
if I make an executive product decision to just drop Postgres for the next hot database technology, right?
Don't talk to Ben Kochi because he wants to look into cockroach. So yeah, but good call on future proofing.
I know. I've spoken to him.
Okay. All right,
Think about all those people that have the system R footers. For anyone that knows what system R was in the 70s.
Might be alone on that one, Giannis. All right. So some point in time today, I will put together a couple designs. So what we did on the database, I'm sorry, memory team, if I can find the issue.
Do we do database group or GitLab database as a header footer?
What's the preference here?
I think I like having GitLab in the name. Other than that,
Okay, so ask for GitLab database, this one. So what we did in the memory group is people had different preferences, right? So some folks like zip up, you can create your own design and then share it. I'm sorry, is this the zip up one? Yeah, it is. So, and then some people preferred the pullover.
So I have the pullover, and it's quite nice, right? So it's the same site. So my review is it's pretty. I think it's a nice to be. Actually, the quality is pretty good. Zip up is probably also nice. I personally prefer those, but I didn't even know we could order them. So.
Yeah. And then there's the lightweight option, the t-shirt option. And I'm probably going to go this route because I counted last night. I have 8 black hoodies already and 2 gray ones. So I'm not desperately in need of more zip up or even pullover hoodies. So I might go the t-shirt option. So it's pretty much choose your own adventure here, as long as we're all using the same logos. If you prefer zip ups, feel free to go that route and share your design here. Sorry, not here in the issue, obviously. And yeah, one question, Fabian, I haven't gotten an answer to. How's the sizing? Is it pretty true, or do they size big or small?
So I am 1 meter 89, so relatively tall, and I have an M, and I think it's still relatively big. So
Okay.
I would say, like, it is true, but if I had an XL hoodie, I would wear a tent, right? And I think this year already feels like if I just like get up, it's definitely not like super tight for an M, right? So I think it's pretty okay. But I've started to order sort of M size for these types of hoodies because I find L to be really large. But also I cycle, so I look essentially like a T-Rex, right, with no upper body and.
Thanks for the modeling session and the visual. So appreciate it.
Hey, whatever I can do. Low level of shame, right?
That's awesome. All right. Andreas, you have the next topic.
Oh, yeah, Nikolai and I were chatting, and I think he's interested in a lot of the topics that we work on, like partitioning or the integer overflow topic. Is like a while back, he's basically written a lot about that and how to accomplish it in the old version of Postgres and stuff like that. And he's also has an update on migration testing. So what they have as a feature, perhaps to help us with that. And I was wondering if we should invite him on Thursday to our call. We all wanted to sort of have a group chat, or if we should find another time for that. Do we have something specific for Thursday in mind for that meeting? For the
nothing on the agenda yet. So no,
Sure.
I'm actually inviting him now.
Perfect.
Cool. Okay. We've reached the end of the agenda. Any other topics we want to cover today? Ben, did you have anything you needed?
No, nothing I need. I have got some reasonably interesting stuff going on in the database space though. So we've got a ticket relating to deadlocks, which I'm trying to get my head around what exactly is going on. So they're generating deadlocks using CI, which is a neat trick. And another one relating potentially to the EDB flavor of Postgres misbehaving. There's a recent post in the database channel about that. So we'll see what the customer comes back with. It's not boring in database land.
Never is. All right, thanks, Ben.
What was the issue with deadlocks? Is there a ticket for that as well?
There is, yeah. Let me stick it in the agenda. I'm just working my way through now just to try and get my head around how one might go about reproducing it. That seems like the obvious approach. I think that's the right one. So I'm quite happy to do the heavy lifting there to try and unpick the ticket, because obviously I can go back and get clarification if needed. So if you spot anything interesting, then shout by all means. Something to do with deployments, and that's the wrong log, sorry. That's the wrong log as well. One log would be, I guess, on the deployments table, and the other on the CI builds table. And there's two jobs locking the same records, which is interesting. So yeah, I'm just trying to work out how they've managed to get the CI to do that at all, frankly.
Thanks for sharing that ticket.
All right, if there's nothing else, I will end the meeting. It's the recording portion.
Just one quick question for next week. Are people still around for before Christmas? I am, but I'm just.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, then.
Yeah, I'll be here next Tuesday. Tuesday is my last day till the 4th.
Yeah, that's. I think Wednesday is my last day. But then see you next week, I suppose.
Right.
Yeah.
Bye.